Hey guys, this is my first time making a list like this, so if things look a little rough, I apologize for that. Today, I'd just like to go over my top 5 favorite guitarists, just because, well, what other video do I have to make? Anyways, things I look for in a great guitarist are not only their technical ability, but also their diversity, uniqueness of playing style, how they convey emotion, and what their compositions are like. So, before I get into my list, I'd like to go over some popular guitarists that didn't make my list and why, so you don't whine about it in the comments. Joe Satriani. I don't like him. I don't hate him, but for me he's just really meh. I recognize that he's a technical beast and I respect him for that, but his playing is so generic. He has no style his own, and in my humble opinion, he could be replaced by somebody on YouTube. As far as genre is concerned, he isn't very diverse, and when he solos, he uses the same licks and patterns that were done to death 30 years ago. Plus, his guitar tone is so screeching and grating to my ears that every time I hear him play, it makes me want to kick a puppy. That's my mini rant on Joe Satriani. Steve Vai. Although he's along the same lines as Joe Satriani, for me he's a little better since his playing is a little more melodic and his guitar tone is a little meatier. Other than that, nothing truly remarkable for me. I saw him live as part of the Generation Axe tour, and while he was good, nothing really stood out for me stylistically. Zakk Wylde. This guy plays more pentatonic licks than AC/DC. Slash. Overrated. Moving on. Eddie Van Halen. Revolutionary at the time, I'll give him that. Otherwise, he's just kind of boring to me. Paul Gilbert. Unlike the previous 5, I think Paul has a really interesting way of phrasing arpeggios and using his long fingers to play some ridiculous stretches. I like him, but not nearly enough to include him in my top 5. Kyle Gass and Jack Black. I love these guys as a comedic rock duo. I love Tenacious D's lyrics, energy, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're the greatest guitarists ever. I still love their music though. Yngwie Malmsteen. Now don't get me wrong, Yngwie's a boss. I could scarcely imagine how blown away people were when they first heard him in 1983. I've seen him live and he was a boss on stage too. His classical playing is sublime and it makes me appreciate the classical influences in his metal playing even more. He has a unique guitar tone and his technique is unbelievably tight. My only real complaint is that a lot of his songs sound the same, and it's rare that he does anything that isn't classical or metal. Tosin Abasi. This dude is a monster. The stuff he can do with a guitar blows my mind. I love his guitar tone. Unfortunately, a lot of Animals' leaders' songs sound the same to me, and memorable riffs in their songs are few and far between. They never really do anything outside their own brand of progressive metal, and sometimes, I'll admit, Tosin's playing lacks emotion, but I can't deny he's amazing. Jimi Hendrix. Like Van Halen, I see him more as an innovator than a guitar god. Well, okay, I'll admit, Jimmy is a guitar god, and I do really like his playing. All Along the Watchtower has some of my all-time favorite guitar work, and in all of his songs he conveys emotion really well. I give him a lot of credit for reinventing the instrument. Rock music literally would not be the same without him. I love him, but not enough to include him in my top 5. Alright, enough dilly-dallying, let's get to the actual list. Number 5. John Gaume. I recently discovered this guy a few months ago, and I was so blown away, I simply needed to give him a spot on this list. This dude is in a league of his own. My jaw physically dropped when I heard Passion Flower for the first time. He shreds, taps, does harmonics, slaps the body, changes tunings mid-song, and even frickin' sings. All at the same time. I have no idea how he does it. Besides the technical aspect, his compositions are beautiful and pack a great deal of emotional punch. I could watch this guy for hours and never get bored. I haven't heard his entire discography yet, but from what I have heard, this guy deserves a lot more attention than he already does. He has a YouTube channel. I subscribed. You should subscribe too. Buy his CDs. This guy needs all the help he can get. I know there are a lot of other well-known acoustic guitarists out there like Andy McKee and John Butler, but for me, John Gomm is better than them. If you haven't heard this guy's music, definitely check him out. Number 4, Alex Lifeson. Okay, I'll admit, this pick is a little blinded by nostalgia. Obviously, he's probably not as good as the other 4 guitarists on this list, but I simply would not be the musician I am today without him. I remember I was 12 years old. My tastes in music were completely different from what they are now. I listened to a lot of electronic music and pop rock. I was playing guitar, learning simple songs, oblivious to the fact that music had bigger and better things to offer me, until one day I was riding with my friend in his dad's car, and he put on 2112, claiming it was the best album he'd ever heard. I may one day make a list of my personal favorite albums at some point in the future, and although 2112 wouldn't be on that list, I can see why he made the claim. 2112 blew me away. The drums were incredible, the bass playing was incredible, the vocals were ridiculous. I'd never heard anything like it before. So the next weekend, I went to Borders. Remember Borders? Oh wow, I'm old. Anyways, I went there to see if they had 2112. They didn't, but they did have the 2-disc Gold Greatest Hits collection, so I got that since it had the first 2 parts of 2112 on it. I discovered even more awesome songs I would come to love, like Xanadu and La Via Strangiato. Even though my level of musicianship at the time wasn't anywhere near high enough to play a lot of Rush's music, I still tried my hardest, and as a result I learned a lot and my playing improved dramatically. Rush opened the gate for me to discover other amazing bands like Metallica, Dream Theater, Primus, Opeth, Tenacious D, Buckethead, and more. I just realized I haven't actually talked about Alex Lifeson's playing yet, so I'll say that he has a pretty unique style and he's very creative compositionally. When you're the only guitarist in a 3-piece band, you need to come up with some unorthodox chords and passages and utilize harmonics to create the biggest possible sound. I'll admit I don't like his guitar tone very much, and he's not the most incredibly technical player, but his compositional creativity is what earns him a spot on this list. Number 3, Mikael Ackerfeldt. I think that's how you say it. Whatever, I'm just gonna call him Mike. Anyways, like Alex Lifeson, Mike is another example of a guitarist I prefer for his creativity and playing style over anything else. There's not much to say about him other than I simply love his compositions. Just listen to some of these.
Recognize my loneliness. Laughter weeps the truth. Push me into the corner, confirming the epitaph of my soul, and displaying the once unknown karma.
One more example is the outro for Deliverance. The rhythm guitar is just hitting the same note on an open string for 4 minutes. It might sound like it would get boring, but somehow Mike manages to make it work and it simply doesn't get boring. The way he manages to make electric guitars, acoustic guitars, bass, and keyboards gel together so well is just a testament to great songwriting. Is he the most technical player on this list? Of course not, but he more than makes up for it with the music he creates. Number 2, John Petrucci. Just so you know, choosing between my top 2 was really difficult, but I think I can justify my choices. There's no denying John Petrucci is one of the greatest living guitarists in the world. He's a technical beast. A lot of the fast stuff he plays, I struggle to play 50 beats per minute slower. I really like his guitar tone, both his new tone and his old tone. For those of you who don't know, JP used his signature line of Ibanez guitars from 1992 to 1997 until switching to Music Man in 2000. This caused many arguments in the DT community. I used to like the Ibanez more, but I've since warmed up to Music Man. I'm even getting myself an Artisan Majesty for Christmas. You guys can look forward to that video in a couple months. Besides the technical side, there are times where he can be very emotional with his playing. Dream Theater's music is also pretty diverse, ranging from soft ballads to classic rock covers to progressive technical wankery to extreme metal. If you've ever seen his rock discipline instructional video, he seems very knowledgeable about music theory and how to build technique. I highly recommend checking this video out if you play guitar in any style at any level. I'll post a link in the description below. It's very helpful. In addition, in interviews, he's always humble and down to earth, sometimes mentioning how so many other guitarists are better than him. Well, John, in my humble opinion, there's only one guitarist better than you. And now, my number one favorite guitarist of all time is... Yeah, you all saw it coming. My number one pick is Buckethead. Yeah, I could go on and on all day about this guy, but I'll do my best to restrain myself. First of all, Buckethead is unbelievably prolific and diverse. Most other guitarists excel only in one genre, but Buckethead has dabbled in everything, including rock, metal, funk, progressive, experimental, bluegrass, acoustic, ambient, dark ambient, electronica, movie soundtracks, theme songs, and more. His compositional and improvisational styles are both very unique. When you hear Buckethead play, you know it's Buckethead playing. There are many staples of his playing, including his signature 8-finger tapping, crazy hybrid picking, kill switch use, robotic noise effects, and many signature Buckethead licks that anyone familiar with Buckethead would be able to recognize. His technique is incredible, but unlike other guitarists that may technically be more skilled than him, he uses his ability to create great melodies at the same time. Buckethead is one of the most emotional guitarists I've ever heard. I've heard you're a master instrumentalist if you can make a song say 1,000 words without any lyrics, and a lot of Buckethead's instrumental stuff, especially the more mellow songs, do just that. those of you wondering why he wears a mask, I have 4 plausible assumptions of my own. One is that it's to keep his anonymity so he doesn't get recognized, keeping his work and personal lives separate. This ties into my second theory, which that it's to help with stage fright, since I've heard from multiple sources that he's very shy in real life. The third is that it gives him an excuse to act weird on stage, and the fourth is so that the audience can't connect a face with the music, so that he can let his awesome music stand out on its own. Now, I'm not gonna pretend that everything he does is amazing. He has some mediocre material, even some genuinely bad material, but a lot of the time he gets it right. And when he gets it right, he frickin' gets it right. Buckethead is my all-time favorite guitarist, and in my opinion, he's the best all-round living guitarist in the world. Since he's so diverse, everybody in the civilized world is sure to love at least one song of his. I'm the biggest Buckethead fan I know. I've listened through his entire discography at least once, all 264 studio albums. I own more than 30 of his CDs. 75% of the guitar covers on my channel are Buckethead songs. I even went through the physically painful and emotionally taxing process of defecating a gold brick so I could afford his signature guitar. Speaking of his guitar, I forgot to mention, Buckethead's clean tone is my favorite clean tone of any guitarist I've heard. It sounds like God crying. It's so nice. I remember seeing a video of Primus with Buckethead on stage when I was 16 years old. I thought, who the heck is this clown? So I decided to look up some of his solo material. Big Sur Moon was the first song I heard. I was so transfixed, his style was so fresh and invigorating, I just had to keep looking up more of his material. And 5 years later, I still think he's the best. Anyways, I'm getting a little carried away, but in short, I think the reason I love Buckethead so much is his uncompromising innocence. He loves trying new things, working with new people, and there are no limits to what he's willing to try musically. Making music is something he clearly does simply because he enjoys it. And in that respect, he's one of the greatest musical role models ever, in my humble opinion at least. If you haven't heard any of Buckethead's stuff, here's a quick list of his albums worth checking out. Keep in mind, he has more than 200 solo studio albums, so even though I'm gonna name a lot of albums, believe me, this is a short list. Acoustic Shards, Buckethead Land, Giant Robot, Day of the Robot, Colma, Monsters and Robots, Electric Tears, Buckethead Land 2, Population Override, Enter the Chicken, Crime Slunk Scene, Monolith, A Real Diamond in the Rough, Shadows Between the Sky, Captain EO's Voyage, Look Up There, Electric Sea, Pike 13, Pike 15, Pike 18, Person Square, Code of Charms, Wishes, Pike 43, Hold Me Forever, Project Little Man, The Molt Rail Part 2, and Tucked into Dreams. So that wraps up my personal top 5 favorite guitarists. If you don't like my choices, then you can leave a mean comment and hit the dislike button.